Welcome to the IonaHoops.com podcast with your host, Guy Flatico.
Hello, remember me? Season 4, episode 21 of the IonaHoops.com podcast. It has been, well, almost a month since I've done an episode. I am a slacker, you can say it, but let's face it, a whole lot has happened. And every time I kind of said, all right, maybe I should drop an episode, something would happen. And I'm like, well, maybe more is going to happen. I'll wait again a little bit more. So kind of played that game a little bit. Even went back and forth with the one and only Tomid Anderson to join me on an episode. And we were kind of debating when he would come back on and threw different dates around and timing around for that. And we've decided to maybe hold off on that a little bit more too, as we, it's portal season, as you know. So what's happened? Let's backtrack a moment and realize the last episode was the day after Iona's season ended. So we're going way back into the middle of March. There's so much has happened since then. I do want to say congrats to the St. Peter's Peacocks. There was one humble podcaster, or maybe not so humble, who actually almost nailed the bracket perfectly, but did call St. Peter's upsetting Quinnipiac, did call St. Peter's beating Fairfield in the final. So congrats to the hashtag Rising Cox, hashtag MAAC After Dark. Just a great season. I kind of felt like they were, when I saw them earlier in January, I guess it was, when they came into Hines and kind of beat us up a bit. I remember, and I'm sure I talked about it online. I feel like I probably talked about it in the podcast that followed that. They were pretty darn good, and with Corey Washington back in their lineup, you knew they were going to be pretty darn good. So anyway, enough of all that. You guys don't want to hear me talk about St. Peter's a month after they won the MAAC, but we do have so much to cover around here, and we're going to get to it all. I have a State of the Union address of sorts, and yes, even sound to go with that. We're going to certainly do an offer roundup, and a lot to talk about there. Yeah, it's been a month, so we're going to try to hit it all. And guess what? We even have not one, not two, but three Iona Iotas.
Iona Iotas.
Well, guys, you know that we are building a roster again from scratch. It's another fun off season, and it's portal time around here. What that means, of course, you've got to help us out. We need the Gales Nation NIL Collective to get your support. A reminder right off their website. The collective is committed to providing Iona University student athletes with purposeful engagements that positively impact communities and engage with Gales supporters in meaningful ways. Go to galesnation.com to explore the different giving levels. They start as low as $10 a month, people. If you're paying attention to the Iona board or Twitter at all, you know how hard the staff is working to replenish the roster. We're going to get to that later on in this episode. Get involved and help us get back on top of the MAAC by being part of the Gales Nation Collective. And despite what some people may have heard from certain people out there, we do pay our players. So anyway, enough of that. Contribute to the collective. We need you now more than ever. galesnation.com.
Iona Iotas.
Well, it's been quite the coaching carousel going on around in the MAAC, which is not a surprise. I think last year we've had a bit of turnover as well. It was a hell of a year up in Albany. Carm is gone. So he's out of there now. Jerry McNamara, former Syracuse player and assistant, is in place. He's got some sleazy buddies that probably will contribute to their NIL. So we'll see how much Sienna has. We'll see if there's more than a Dodge Charger to give out this time around. The Spoon is out at Canisius. Jim Christian's is in. We'll see how that goes. And just more recently, Dan Engelstad gave up his job at the Mount to take an assistant job at Syracuse. Life is going full circle there. So yes, assistant job at a high major pays more than some MAAC jobs. That's what I take away from that. So we'll see what all of those new names mean, whether we see some enhancement from some of our MAAC programs, as the MAAC had a rough year last year. So we'll see what some of these new names can infuse.
Iona, hiatus.
All right, our last iota will be dedicated to what we know of the non-conference schedule. Usually when it gets to off-season time, pre-portal and NIL, and pre-complete roster turnover, you'd always just be like, all right, well, let's follow what the new players are going to be, and let's talk about the non-conference schedule. And that would kind of be like the summary of what non-conference fandom was. Well, the portal's taking care of that. And now it's college basketball is a full-time sport even for fans, because you have to keep track of where everybody's going. And nowadays everybody's roster is getting rated, and it's not just Iona people. Go look around. High majors are getting rated and losing all their rosters. So it happens everywhere. It's not just an Iona thing. Yeah, so it's become a full-time fandom thing to keep up on Twitter and do all these other things that people do to see what's happening with recruiting and all the visits and all the other stuff. So anyway, we don't talk about non-conference as much anymore, but we should just give a quick update. It's early, but we do have 6 of our games already in place, more or less. Our schedule does already include games at Hofstra, at Colgate, and home against Charleston. So those are 3 games right out of the gate that we pretty much know of. As far as I know, they're all still happening. Of course, as the one and only Brian Breyer will always tell us, it's not official till the ink dries on the contracts. But that's what we know of as of now. And you've heard mention of it. I'm pretty sure I've said it on a past podcast. I don't know. It's been a month, so who knows what I've said anymore. But at the moment, the Iona Gales are still going to be part of the mid-major portion of the tournament at the Baha Mar in the Bahamas. So that's a 3-game event as well. We don't know anything about opponents or anything like that yet. I can almost guarantee you I'm going because it's the Bahamas, and Nassau is one of my favorite places. I am a pirate after all. Hashtag watch Black Sails, which is coming up on Netflix starting April 17th. I promise you, if you've not watched that show, it is my all-time favorite show. Sorry for that segue, but hey, we went to Nassau. I had to say something. Anyway, moving along. The one thing I did hear off the record, and whether we'll see if it stays true or not, I've heard the MAAC schedule is still going to be 20 games, even with the additions of Sacred Heart and Merrimack. So that means an uneven MAAC schedule. We'll play a couple teams. There'll be a couple MAAC teams we won't play twice. And if that comes to pass, which also means that our non-conference schedule will remain at 11 games. Or up to 11 games, technically, to be official about it. We'll see if that changes. Maybe the MAAC schedule increases. I hope not. I actually would rather see it go the other way, and we play fewer MAAC teams so we can schedule what we want to schedule. But we'll see how all that comes to pass. But that's what we know right now. The 3 games I mentioned at Hofstra, at Colgate, home versus Charleston. 3 games at the Baha Mar. That's 6 of the 11 right there. Expect 1 to 2 bye games at home. I would also expect 1 to 2 bye games on the road. And that would also actually be pretty close to what's left. So we'll see if that comes to pass as well. And, of course, it's still very early in the process, being only April. So we'll keep an eye on that as well as we move forward. All right. I figured it was time, and I don't know if I'll do this completely regularly, but I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to call this the Iona State of the Union. All right, just wanted to take a minute to just kind of look back, not at all of last season, but I do have some thank yous and some parting comments about the Gales who are no more. Of course, some of them are because they're out of eligibility. It's not their fault. Others, not so much. So we're going to start off by saying once again, and I know we've all said it 100,000 times by now, thank you, Oz. King Oz. You gave us life when we did not have any at this time last year. Although by now I think we may have had a commitment or 2. So right away, by bucking the trend of the Bettino mess that he left in his wake. Oz, you were a stable force. I wish you were healthier this year. It would have been fun to see what we would have been with you at 100% all season long. But thank you for being you and staying. Good luck to whatever you do moving forward. Given how much you were active on the bench this year, hell, I'd love to see you coaching. So let's see what happens. Good luck to you, Oz Shema, moving forward. And thank you to Joel, Weza, and Adon. You guys did what you could. We had a very rocky season. You knew that was coming. But hey, you guys did what you could all along, and we thank you for giving us your very best. Now to a couple guys who kind of leaving us because they didn't really play enough. That's Bryce and Saunders. I know a lot of people wanted to see more of Saunders and actually even more of Bryce just as a why not. Saunders is super young, 18 years old when he was with us all season here. He'll get better. He's already transferred out and has found a landing place. Good luck to Dylan. Certainly, I wish he could have stuck around, but it happens. Isaac hasn't landed anywhere yet from where I know of, but certainly showed potential. I was curious to see more of him, but you can tell that it might not have been the best fit all along for him. And then the guys who could have had roles next year, I want to talk about 3 of them actually: Bates, Sully, and Terrell, who actually I think surprised a lot of us because he did technically have another year of eligibility and could have stuck it out. Chose not to, hit the portal himself. Sully, certainly had potential, but he's gone as well. And, Bates really came on toward the end. Probably his final game might have been one of his best, probably all around best game. It happens. Wish them luck, all of them, to see where they land. I've seen, of course, Bates has already landed. Sully has a decent list out there. I haven't seen anything for Terrell yet. I wish that Terrell was healthy this year too. It would have been interesting to see if he had ever, he just never could get going for us because he was always just had one thing after another. Be curious to see if he might have been one of those little missing pieces that if he were healthy could have given us a little more. And then disappointment, seeing our future stars leave in JQ and Aaron Gurin. I think we love both of them. So it was, sorry to see them go for sure. We'll see where they end up after all this. I'm sure they'll find some NIL money wherever they land. I don't think they're well beyond a back level, either one of them, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them as high up as the A10. So we'll see about that. But, unfortunate and disappointed that they left, but understandable in this new era. All right, now that we're done with that, we're going to go to the offer roundup, which is going to include a quick little recap of all of the new gals, including the ones that we had already, and then the ones we've added in the past month. And then we'll take a quick look at current recruiting.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
All right, let's look at the newest gals. Of course, hey, people kept saying, oh, we have nobody left on our roster. That's not true. We got 3 commitments earlier in the year. So we technically had 3 freshmen going into this non-conference season going into this off season once everybody else bailed. So let's give a quick recap of those 3, and then we'll talk about the guys we've added since. We're going to start with Justin Menard. 6'3", guard, St. Thomas More. He's got highest passing IQ in the gym, defensive visionary. Can just dissect, get the game on both ends. He's one of those kind of kids. Creates well for his teammates and himself. Super skilled, fluid guard, deadly in transition and within a half court. Elite level shot maker. One of the finest playmakers in New England. You're wondering where I got all that from? It's not from the coaches. It's from people who cover recruiting for a living. Same thing with this one here. Jacob Hogarth, 6'9", out of South Kent. Really evolved his athleticism and mobility as he grew up. Now has some small forward moves in his power forward body. Has made a similar process on the defensive end. He's large and he's athletic, takes up a lot of space. He's mobile. It just impacts the game on both ends. He makes plays and just is involved in action. And just he is tough. He hits the glass offensively and defensively, and he can finish in traffic. Again, those are from recruiting experts who have watched him play. So these are impactful guys we're talking about here. And last one I want to mention is JoJo Wallace, 6'4" guard, also out of South Kent. great handle, effective with his moves to get to the rim, crafty finisher, but a 3-level scorer on the whole. He can score off the dribble, or off the catch. Just also, he has good guard vision, and he's a great lead guard as well. So, those are 3 players we got during the early signing period. All look like they can have impact. We'll see how it works out with them. Now we'll talk about the 3 guys we've added since this season ended, and we're going to start with another freshman. This one's really important. I'm going to hopefully pronounce his last name correct. It's Adam Najai, 6'3" point guard, Cardinal Hayes. 4 stars on ESPN, 3 stars on 247, ranked 167th nationally. He's the highest rated point guard commit in Iona history. He chose Iona over Hofstra and EMU as his finalists, formerly committed to Washington State. And he also has had past offers from Arizona State, Georgia Tech, Illinois, Mississippi State, Seton Hall, TCU, Miami, and many, many others. Just a tough, hardworking point guard, creates for himself and his teammates, shoots well, plays under control. Just a really high-level, high-impact player. We're super excited to have him. And again, local Cardinal Hayes, hoping to see some players that he knows from his past at Hayes, maybe come to the Gales as well before this is over. But really coveted freshman, and so very excited to have him join this mix as well. All right, that brings us to 2 guys from. We're going to start with Christian Winborn. He's a transfer from St. Joe's. He averaged 6 points per game as a freshman in 2022-23. He played, that was the last full season he played at St. Joe's. He played, during that year, he played 22 minutes a game. So and he's got three years of eligibility left. He's a 6'2" guard. He was a 3-star, top 250 player out of high school. So he left St. Joe's because they just had an overabundance of guards. Hey, we saw St. Joe's in person last year. They wiped the floor with us. I mean, they had so much talent in the backcourt. It was crazy. So he just was getting caught up in a minutes game there. So he ended up leaving there in December, actually, because he wanted to not lose his year of eligibility. So he's got 3 years of eligibility coming to us with that. It's great to have a player with a year of D1 experience under his belt, especially when you consider that experience was against higher than MAAC competition. I really think he's going to help us a lot. Also from we have Luke Jungers. He's a transfer out of University of Nebraska, Omaha. 6'9", stretch 4, 7.3 rebounds a game. 80% free throw shooter, 39% from 3. That was all from 2022. Medical redshirt last year. He also, since then, also missing last season. This past season, I should say, he put up some great numbers in FIBA ball in the under 20 division. Again, 3 years to play, and again, nice to have someone with some D1 experience. This one in the front court. So those are the new guys so far. There's a lot happening, guys, with recruiting. I know you're all wondering, oh my gosh, that means you're doing the math in your heads. I see it. We had 3 that early committed. We got an early freshman commit here during this signing season. 2 transfers. That's only 6 guys. Oh my gosh, we need 7 more guys. Yo, chill. Do you guys watch Twitter at all? There are people hitting the portal like every half hour. There are so many players that are available. And yes, we are very, very active. So I'm going to give a shout out here to Iona86 on the Iona message board and on Twitter. You can find him there as well. He's a lunatic who has created this tracking document. I won't get into how he knows all this information, but let's just say that, you guys follow, again, if you follow on Twitter, you see every now and then, we're on a list of somebody that's kind of says we've reached out or whatever. Well, you know what? That's only very, 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 very small portion of the guys we've reached out to. Just by what his own tally on his database, we've reached out to at least 275 JUCOs and transfers. That's just JUCOs and transfers. That's not more freshmen. So that's at least that. Okay. So there's which means it's probably more, which probably means it's well over 300. only Tobin and Pat Wallace and the rest of the staff knows for sure how many it really is, but it's at least that. Again, that's a pretty hefty number. And out of those 275, a quarter of them are true bigs, meaning power forwards and centers. So I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, we need to get bigger." I've heard if I had a dime for every time I saw somebody tell us that we weren't big enough on Twitter or on the Iona message board, I'd have a whole lot of dimes. Let's put it that way. We're recruiting size, and this is the thing that I want to talk about too. There was a great piece just the other day after UConn won a national championship, and congrats to them as well. Hurley adjusted his system a bit to match his roster, especially for the offensive end. You're going to play your defense the way you play your defense. He adjusted his system a little bit based on what he had in his lineup. Tobin's not new to this whole thing of coaching, guys. He didn't just wake up and start coaching. If you don't think he's going to say to himself, all right, we're going to tweak what we did a little bit based on what our roster is going to look like this year, which of course we don't know yet, but when we do, if you don't think he's going to tweak what we did a little bit, and if you don't think he had any learnings from this past year, you're a little nuts. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we all saw it. We all saw that, I feel like every team that even in the MAAC, every team had a big that came in, tough kid that can, get rebounds and, has a little bit of a low post game at least. I feel like everybody had one but us. That's what it felt like. And the one guy we had that had a little bit of that is Sully, who not only is young but is no longer here. So poor Oz at 105 pounds trying to guard those guys wasn't going to work either. So yes, I mean, again, I'm telling you right now, we have reached out to more than 50 players that are big, that are not string bean 6'9", 6'10" kids, that are true power forwards and centers, not stretches. Although again, we just got to commit from a 6'9" stretches from Luke Jungers. And I'm sure some of those guys might be. I'm sure again, if you watch the videos of Luke Jungers, he's not real thin. He can guard a big guy. So we are recruiting a little bigger, and we're going to have more size, more beef, not just height. Because I don't think we were particularly tiny last year. We just didn't have beef. So I think we'll have a little more of that. But we want to press and run and all that. It's hard to do that with a lumbering center. I do think we'll see Tobin adjust his system a little bit based on whatever we do finish with, whatever lineup we do have out there. Or maybe again, what you're going to see again, I noted, like I said, about a quarter of these guys are bigs. There's also half of them are probably wingish type guys, 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", who can play the 2, the 3, maybe even the 4 in a pinch, which means that we're still going to run a lot. We're still going to press. We're still going to run that. I don't think we're going to see the 5-out motion go away from here, especially when you're getting 6'9" kids who are stretch 4s. So you're going to see tweaks. And that's all I can tell you about that until we know more. But if you think Tobin's going to be stubborn and just roll out the same exact thing we just tried to do this past year, it's not going to happen. All right. He's we all know that. We all, that's just obvious. So keep all of that in mind. You guys all want to know what's happening with recruiting. And I just told you again, how many guys we're reaching out to. I do know this. I do know we have a hefty number of visits coming up over the next, week to 10 days. So that's all I'll tell you about that. You've probably seen a little bit of that online, actually, about some of the visits that we have. I'm not going to get too far into all that because by the time this drops, who knows what else will change. But obviously, we're going to be involved with some interesting names, size, wings, also point guards. We're looking at kids who are older. We're looking at JUCOs. We're looking at, it's a mix. It's a mix. So, and when you need 7 players, you're going to get a mix. We're not focusing on one position by any means. Although, again, when you look at the 6 guys we have, I'm sure some size will be a focal point moving forward a little bit because we still haven't secured that big guy yet that I was mentioning that we're trying to get. But there's opportunities. So anyway, I've been talking long enough now. But I just wanted to take a moment and go through all of that fun stuff with all you guys and just, hey, I know that there are some people questioning where we're going. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we lost everybody again. We're starting over again. People questioning everything we're doing right now. But you got to let this play out a bit. 1 year is not a sample size to judge anybody, especially when you have a situation like this with NIL, with the portal. Get people. There is no blueprint for this yet. It's all being figured out at this level. And as soon as you figure it out, it changes again. So you guys got to be patient. Tobin and the staff are working their butts off trying to get to fill this roster out. Again, like I said, there are many visits coming up in the next week to 10 days or 2 weeks. So I would hope we'll see some commitments here. And, we might see a couple, we might see a lot, but hey, it's still April. I mean, I'd have to go back and look and see when we got our last couple of commits last year, but we got some time. The portal continues to grow with each passing day, which means that there's another group of people that the coaches have to consider to say, oh, do we want to take a run at this guy or not? So, be patient and let's, and even when we have names, you can't just sit there and say, well, I don't know about that one. How do you know? I mean, how do we know yet? Nobody knows. So all we can do is we want to find guys that want to come here and play. And all we can do is see what happens after that. Get them all on campus, roll the balls out, let Tobin work with them, let the staff work with them, see where they go from there, and just hope we're in a better position than we were this year, which imploded late. Let's face it. I don't want to reflect too much on last year, but we were in a good place up until a very certain point. And I don't want to dive too deep in that because I don't know all the backstory. But we were trending in the right direction at one point, and then it all kind of fell apart. So all we can do is hope that we have higher character kids than we had last year, and that the kids and then these guys, are putting team first, and we'll see what happens after that. Thank you all for waiting so patiently for me to drop another episode. I know it's been a while, but here we are. Hey, it's portal season, people. Enjoy it. It is entertaining, at least from that perspective. Probably not so much for the coaches, but it's entertaining. It's like going shopping, and you just kind of want to see what happens from here. Hopefully, we get the kids we're targeting, and we can start to see this team come together. I want to thank you all for sticking it out here. And if you're listening to this, I'm hoping that means you're still on board. And stick around. We'll see where we're at the next episode when it drops. Don't know when that's going to be yet. We'll wait and see on that. But I wanted to definitely come on here and give you guys some news, and we will see where we go from here. So thank you again for coming on. Again, stay the course, fans. Keep an eye on the message boards and Twitter for all the latest news. We've got fans working hard, keeping up with all this, trying to keep up with the coaches. But anyway, it's all for the love of Gale Nation. Let's keep it going, people. Until next time, go Gales.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the IonaHoops.com podcast. This podcast is a production of IonaHoops.com with publisher Guy Filatico. The opinions shared during this podcast are those of Guy Filatico, IonaHoops.com, and any featured guests. This podcast is not affiliated with Iona University Athletics or the university itself. Thank you for supporting IonaHoops.com.